Good morning, everyone, and once again, I welcome you back to the English online classes. Let's continue these classes with our new poem, Keeping Quiet. This poem is really fantastic one. It reflects everyone's life, yours, mine, your neighbor, every second person. No, not second person. Every person, I can say. It reflects. Because this is what our life is, and this is what we need at the present. Now, before coming to the poem, let's have some general talk. How do you think the life is generally? I'm not talking about this pandemic period. Before that, how your life was, because pandemic has brought a standstill to everyone's life. The life has become a very slow process. We all are caught inside the house. Everything is in a very slower process. But before that, how your life was? Did you never found your life to be very busy, running about all the time? Like if I take your life, student life, going morning, getting up means literally being kicked out of the bed, and then rushing to the school, attending the classes, listening to the teachers, you want or not, listening to the teachers, and then after that coming back home, having your lunch, then after a little rest, going back for the coaching, and then after coming from the coaching, then again if you want you can have some snacks, or if you are coming very late, straight away dinner, and then again getting ready with the next day's work and all, and then going to the bed. Where is the time? Where is the time to think what our life is all about? Frankly speaking, I think out of the entire human population, there might be very, very few people in this world who might be actually knowing what they want from their life. Otherwise, we people are simply living the life because we have to live. We know that our life is to be born, to grow up, study, getting educated, getting a white collar job, lots of money, getting married, having responsibilities, turning old, after discharging all the responsibilities, and then dying. This is a general process which every human being knows that they are supposed to do. But is this actually life? To run about? Are we all a part and parcel of this rat race? Yes, we are. Willingly or unwillingly, we all are becoming a part and parcel of this rat race, where we don't have time to look back or to peep inside to find out what actually our life wants from us. So, Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda is one such thing. It's trying to shake us from inside. A lot of truth is there. Just you have to see into it. So let's move on to what Pablo Neruda wants to tell us. Now here, poem number 3, Keeping Quiet, about the poet Pablo Neruda, born in 1904, died in 1973, is the pen name of Neftali Ricardo Reyes Basalter, who was born in the town of Parral in Chile. Neruda's poems are full of easily understood images which make them no less beautiful. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. In this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. The last line which I read out, that's the base of the entire poem. You can say that that's the theme. Quiet introspection and feeling of mutual understanding. We people are so busy in our life that we don't have time to introspect. You know what is introspect? To evaluate, to know. To know. That is introspective. And human values, they are dying day by day. They are just fading away. Everyone is busy about themselves. Everyone is busy thinking about themselves, least bothered about anybody else. So it's time for us to create a feeling of understanding. First of all, to introspect our life, and also to introspect our relation with others in the society. About Pablo, it's been given that it's his pen name. Actual name is mentioned over here, Neftali Ricardo Reis Basalto. And basically, it has been said that Neruda's poems are easily understood by people because of the poetic device, images which he uses. See, there are numerous poetic devices in which images is one in which people have to use their sense of imagination. Very deeply, the person has to think, the one who reads has to understand the depth of the images being, the feelings being asked to understand, or the poet tries to rise out or rise up. That is what the images are all about. So let's see the poem. Now it's time for you also to do the introspection, so just listen to me carefully. And again, I'm reminding you, get ready with your pen and open the book and keep in front of you and listen to my explanation. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. I'll read the entire poem first. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and a man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars with gas, wars with fire. Victory with no survivors would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt the sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Now hear the poem. A beautiful start. The poet says, now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. Now the thing is that why the poet said that I would like to count to 12. Why he never said count to 10 or count to 5 or count to 4? Because generally we count 1, 2, 3, go. Right? So why is it that it has been said count to 12? The reason is there. The reason is 12 is having a lot of importance. Can you tell what? See, there are 12 months. The total time, that is in a 12-hour format we people are having. Either the 12-hour format or 24-hour format. 12 is very important. So that's why somewhere he's trying to point out the time. That's why he said that I will count to 12. Means I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this I'll count to 12. And what we all have to do? We all have to be very still. Quiet. Don't move. We all have to be very still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. For once on the face of the earth, here face means surface. So he says that when I will count to 12, let us all become still, motionless. We won't move. Where we are, we will stay there. And let's not speak in any language. half of the fight takes place because of this long tongue of people. Yes, I'm true, isn't it? I'm correct. It's totally true that half of the fights takes place because of the tongue. People talk ill, people fight. This is what happens. So what he says is that for once on the surface of the earth, let us not speak. No communication. Let us not speak. Let's stop for 1 second. He's not asking much. Only for a second. Only for a second, let us all stop and not move our arms so much. Means let us become motionless. Let us stand where we are. Let us not open our mouth. And only he is asking a second. Just for a second, let us all become still. Let us not communicate with each other. And let us all stand where we people are. Then he says, imagine imagery. He says, it would be so exotic. Exotic means very magnificent, beautiful, beyond imagination, extraordinary it will be. So he says, you just imagine. Now you see yourself. I'm preparing a video for you people, okay? And to find a quiet place, it is so hard. Sometimes in between the videos which teachers are preparing and sending to you, you might have heard a dog barking at the background, or you might have heard a vehicle honking, blowing the horn, I mean. And like I'm preparing, the train is whistling, or here and there people are talking. Yeah, train is blowing the horn right now. So you can see that there is so much of noise all around, with the engines running, with the vehicles going up and down, people rushing here and there. So he says that you just imagine when you count to 10 and suddenly everything goes silent around, totally silent. No one is talking, no one is talking at all. And as I said, see the noise, and if everything stops, obviously it will be an exotic moment and unbelievable. It can be something which we might have never imagined of. So let's just imagine like that, without rush, without engines. Nobody is rushing here and there, no engine noises there. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. See, two contradictory things are there: togetherness and strangeness. Because he's asking everyone to do it, all around the world. We all will be together doing one thing, that is introspecting ourselves by staying quiet for 1 second, but in a sudden strangeness, in a very strange atmosphere, not knowing each other but still very silent. Then further he says, fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Not only this, if everything goes quiet, he says that so many other benefits are there. Like, if the fisherman goes silent for a second, he don't go for fishing purpose, or means if he even if he is there in the middle of the sea, still he don't fish. What will happen in that cold sea when he don't go for fishing? Means he's there but he's not fishing. What will happen? He would not harm whales. Cold sea, no? That's why the example is taken, whales, the aquatic animals. Okay, nothing. Then also maybe 1 or 2 lives will be saved. And then the man gathering salt. If you are having a cut in your hand, if salt is rubbed over it, what happens? Oh, you will be screaming loud. So he says that the man who gathers salt, at least if everything goes silent, he will get some time to look at the hands which are badly hurt. So he will also get some time for himself. Then further it has been said, those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. Okay. Now, this is for those people who believe in war, especially green wars. The green wars here means the biochemical type of wars. The wars in which gas and all those things are used means basically the way kinds of nuclear bombs and all those things, with which destruction is the only end product. So what he says, for those who believe in these kind of green wars, the wars in which gas and fire is involved, what happens if you win the war and if there is nobody to taste that victory? So that's what he said, victory with no survivors. What these people should do would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. Those people who are so much a believer of war, what they must do, in that 1 second, before that they should put on clean clothes and they should walk about with their brothers means with the other humans, in the shade, doing nothing, in peace, doing nothing. When you do nothing, automatically no battle, no war, nothing, no distraction, no lives are gone. Then the poet says, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Now he says that I'm talking about staying still, but I feel that people are getting confused, because I am talking about staying still, but I'm not talking about total inactivity. Total inactivity means death, means when there is nothing done by you ever, it is next to death. So he says that please don't get confused. I'm not talking about death at all. Life is what it is about. Life is an ongoing cycle. Let it go. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about death. I want no truck with death. He said clearly in this line. He said, I want no truck. Here, truck doesn't mean the vehicle running on the road. Here, truck means connection or association. So he says that I don't want my statement to be connected with the word death. Total inactivity means death, and I am not talking about total inactivity. I am just saying that for a second, at the count of 12, everyone goes silent, don't move, so that you can introspect yourself and your relations with other humans on this planet Earth. Then he says, these are very beautiful lines, you just pay attention. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. If we were not so single-minded, I think that line is clear to you. Single-minded means selfish, me, only thinking about yourself, about oneself, okay, and how we want to live our life. And for once, if we could just stay quiet, do nothing, then a huge silence will be created. Obviously, the entire world, if goes silent, a huge silence will be created. And then he says that maybe this huge silence will interrupt the sadness. He says that we people are all living, okay, but we all have created a kind of a sadness around our life. This sadness is created from what, from the fact that we don't understand ourselves. That is very true. Many of us don't understand themselves. And he says that because many of us don't understand ourselves, we have reached to that point where we are threatening ourselves to death. Means, in a way, it is like committing suicide. We are calling our own death because we don't understand ourselves. So he says that this thing of not understanding and threatening ourselves with death has created a kind of sadness around us. And the huge silence which will be generated by staying quiet, that only can penetrate, that only can go inside this sadness and break it. So for once we all should be quiet without thinking only about ourselves and our life. Then further, perhaps the earth can teach us when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Earth is used here as a very good example by the poet. The poet says that, leave what the poet says. First of all, let us to discuss what that line means. You in your own lifetime, you are all grown up children. In your this time period of living, from the past few years, you might have seen that so many times earth has suffered a lot of natural calamities, like earthquakes are there, floods are there, and in many places drought. So you might have seen that many a times she had got hurt, she has been uh, totally distracted. Every time she had passed through all this thing, she stood up again, living so that people can live happily and peacefully on her. So that's what poet means to say here, that earth is the best example for everyone. She teaches that when it seems that everything has ended up, she again she again stands up and she lives. And that is what we have to learn from earth. After giving this example, the poet concludes, now I will count to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. The poet says that now that I had told you that what is the reason behind keeping quiet, what you can gain by keeping quiet. So now I'll count to 12 and I want you all to keep quiet. Meanwhile, I'll say goodbye to you. So I hope, my dear students, that you might have all understood the poem. And if any kind of doubts, you can just contact me. Let's see the questions. What will counting up to 12 and keeping still help us achieve? Can anyone guess what could be the possible answer? Very simple answer, and it's given in the book also. Yes, it is given over here. As you can see when I'm scrolling, where I'm going to where the introduction of the poet is given, and the very last line, that it gives us the chance of quiet introspection and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. That's the answer for the very first question, what we achieve. The next one is, do you think the poet advocates total inactivity and death? Do you think so? Do he support total inactivity and death? What do you say? No. Yes, definitely. No, he don't. He himself had said that I don't want you to associate or link my words to total inactivity or death. Third one is, what is the sadness that the poet refers to in the poem? Can anyone guess that? Now only I had given the entire explanation of it. Yes, the sadness of not understanding oneself and thus bringing a threaten or of what? Of death. What symbol from nature does the poet invoke to say that there can be life under apparent stillness? It's trying to show the nature. Poet tries to say that even when we feel that life has come to an end, there can still be a chance to live, to stand up and live again. And that's why he had used the very beautiful example of earth, who many a time had suffered and still she stood up, growing and making place a better place to live for the human beings. So these are the questions, and as I have told you, no extra questions will be there. Hopefully you all have understood the poem very well. Till we meet again, goodbye and stay safe.